Hi guys, and welcome to A Soul Full of Books. My name's Kat, and welcome to my channel. Today I will be doing my February wrap-up. So in February I read 13 books. Little disclaimer to that, I was not working in February, so I had a lot of time to read. 13 books will probably never be my average, but some months might be better than others, so who knows. I will have all of the stats up here, as in number of pages I read throughout the month and how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star books I read. Now, most of the books I read this month, the genre was fantasy. I obviously love fantasy, so I had to binge it when I felt like it. But I also have a couple thrillers in here that I've really been excited to learn about and read. So I'm going to jump into it, and I'm going to start with my lowest ranking books and move up to my highest ranking books. And my first book is And the Trees Crept In by Dawn Kurtagich. This was a 2-star book. I've talked about this in my book haul and one other video. I really liked the writing style, but I think in the same aspect, the writing style really hurt the story. And we did a lot of work following Priscilla and her sister Noreen, or Scylla and Nori, throughout the book and throughout these very trying times, for it to end in a very typical, classic, and unfortunately predictable way. So, yeah, it wasn't that great of a horror book, and I was really disappointed with the ending. It took a lot of work to get to such a typical horror ending. So I gave it 2 stars. So next up are my 3 and 3.5 stars. So next we have Unwind by Neal Shusterman. This is one of his earlier series, and I really did enjoy it. It centers around a really interesting topic, which is the world goes into a second civil war over pro-choice and pro-life opinions, and they come to a conclusion that seems to sit well for the adults, but for the children it's rather unfortunate, because between the ages of 13 and 18, if you are not deemed a useful citizen, or if you're just a troubled kid, then you become unwind and you just get to live on through your organs being donated across the United States. So it's a really good book. There were some writing problems and some flow issues I had with it, so that's why I gave it a 3.5 star, but I'm definitely excited to continue with this, and I see it moving in a really great direction. So the next book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. It's the first in the Grisha trilogy. I gave it a 3.5 star. I really did like it, but it was just a little bit slow for me. I'm in love with the characters. Alina and Mal, ship them hardcore, but yeah, it was just a little bit slow. I'm hoping it picks up in the second book, so this was a 3.5 star for me. My next book was The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I gave this a solid 3 star. When I finished reading it, I would have given it a 4, maybe even 5 star, because I was still just so caught up in the twists and turns that it caused. But looking back on it, it was slightly predictable, some of the action. It really bothered me that the main character, Mare, seemed almost a little conceited, feeling as though she could control 2 of the boys who create like a sort of love triangle. So I was a little bit frustrated by that looking back on it. It's a 3 star, but I'm really hoping that as the series progresses, I'll fall in love with the books and the characters just a little bit more. So my last 3 star is actually The One Safe Place by Tana Unsworth. It wasn't a bad book and it wasn't a good book. It was just an enjoyable, quick, middle grade read about a dystopian universe. It's a standalone, and it's so it's just a standalone novel. It is about Devin and just basically his journey into a city 50 years in the future where it's become extremely hot and believed due to global warming, and he ends up going to a home for children that seems just way too good to be true, and in the end it turns out way too good to be true, and it wraps it up in a nice, tight, happy little bow. So it's a fun read, but it's nothing really memorable or thought-provoking, so it got a 3-star from me. Next we have Poison Study by Maria V. Schneider. I did not expect this book to be so good. I gave it a solid 4 stars. There were some issues I had with Yelena and Valek's relationship. I started really loving it towards the end, but in the beginning I was kind of frustrated with it. Other than that, I was really surprised I liked it. It was really, really good, so it got a good 4-star from me. She is a food taster who's basically gotten a reprieve from the gallows, and she has to taste food for the commander who basically runs the whole army of their nation. So, really good book, 4-star rating. The next book I gave a 4-star was Shattered Souls by Mary Lindsay. I really enjoyed this book. It follows Lindsay and basically her journey from thinking she's schizophrenic like her father into realizing she's something called a speaker that helps hindered spirits, or what we would call ghosts, I guess, pass on and, basically finish their business. If you've seen shows like Medium or Ghost Whisperer, it's kind of like that, but in a YA setting. I really enjoyed it, and what I really appreciated about this is Alden and Lindsay are in this book, and then it seems in the next book there are 2 other characters. So this will have companion novels, but it will never be Alden and Lindsay again, and I haven't read a series in a really long time like that. So I'm really excited to read the second book and still visit this world, but have different characters. So it got a 4-star for me. The next book on my list is The Cellar by Natasha Preston. This got a 4.5 star from me. I absolutely loved this book. This book follows Summer. She is helping her friend at a party look for one of their other friends when she gets kidnapped by a man who calls himself Clover. He puts her in a cellar and renames her Lily, and she has 3 other companions in the cellar, Violet, Poppy, and Rose. And it's basically from the view of her trying to survive in the cellar, her boyfriend's view, Lewis, who is trying to find her, and Clover's view as to why he justifies keeping his perfect little family in the cellar. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 star. The only reason I did that is because there are some scenes that are repetitive. They're not exactly the same scene, but they do have several moments that could have been cut down to just 2 or 3 moments. I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't give spoilers, but it's still such a really good book you guys need to pick up. The next 4-star book I have is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I heard about this for a really long time, and I even picked it up and put it in my cart a couple times at Half Price Books, but I never purchased it. And finally I did. I read it, and I liked it, and I gave it a 4-star. This book follows Paige Mahoney in a kind of alternate universe of London, and basically she's a clairvoyant. All clairvoyants are prosecuted, basically like the witches were prosecuted during the Salem witch trials, but in this book they obviously have technology and clairvoyants working on the side of the government to help weed out other clairvoyants. And she believes that the clairvoyants they capture are taken to this place called the Tower and murdered. But what she finds out is that they are actually sent to basically an internment camp to serve beings from a different dimension. And this book is basically about her learning more about the power she has, her certain type of clairvoyancy, and trying to basically fight oppressive rulers, whether it's her government or these interdimensional beings. So I really enjoyed it. Solid 4-star. My last 4-star is Through Glass by Rebecca Ethington. This book follows Lex. She is in love with her neighbor next door. They open their windows and they're 10 feet away from each other. They've become best friends throughout the whole time that Cohen, the boy next door, has lived there after the passing of his parents. He lives with his grandparents. And it starts off with them finally realizing that they've been in love with each other for the whole time they've been friends. And just when their romance is starting to bud and become new and amazing, the end of the world happens. Creatures come down from space and they start just annihilating the human race. And this is basically how Lex and Cohen survived through glass. The only communication they have with anybody is each other. They can't open their windows and they just have to talk through glass. I'm not really explaining it really well, but I can't really tell you any more than that, just because if I expand any further, it's gonna start ruining the plot. This is actually a self-published book that I found in clearance at Half Price Books. So the only other way I can get books 2, 3, and 4 is through Kindle. So if you guys are looking for this book, I highly suggest you just hop on Amazon and grab it there for like $2.99, because I'm not even sure if this is still in print. But this got a strong 4-star from me. So my first 5-star is You Will Be Mine by Natasha Preston. This is the first thriller I've ever read and thoroughly enjoyed. It is about Lila and 5 of her housemates in the UK, and one of them receives a threatening Valentine, and from there, after he receives it, he is murdered, and the murdering continues. And it's basically Lila and her best friend / love interest Chase trying to figure out what exactly is going on before they're all dead, before they're all murdered. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a solid 5-star. I loved it. I did not see the ending coming, and the ending, the way it ended in the epilogue, was beautiful. I highly recommend any of Natasha Preston's books. So good. My next 5-star is Saiph by Neil Shusterman. I've already talked about in this video already, has written a couple of series. I think one's a trilogy, the Skinjacker trilogy, and one is the Unwind series. I'm not sure what he's gonna make Saiph, but this was a solid 5-star in my book. This book follows Citra and Rowan as they become apprentices to a Saiph. They live in a world where humans have conquered disease. They have conquered basically any type of damage that happens to your body. So everybody in this world is immortal. Now, all government and all issues, like things that our president today would handle, is handled by something called the thundercloud. Basically a large computer in the sky that deals with just keeping the human race peaceful and happy. The only part of this whole system that is not governed by the thunderhead, is the Saiph. The Saiph are there to just basically control human population. If no one dies and people keep having children, then obviously there needs to be a way to lower the population. So Saiphs will glean people to make room on the planet for others. Citra and Rowan are chosen to follow Saiph Faraday around, and this is just a really, really good book. I absolutely love the world it's in, and I cannot wait to read the second book, Thunderhead. You guys should really read it. I love Neal Shusterman, like, so much. Read his books. The last book that I gave a 5-star, which, I mean, I wish I could give this like 15 stars, is Parasite. It is the first book in the Parasitology trilogy written by Mira Grant. Mira Grant is the pen name of Seanan McGuire. And basically this is about, I'm trying to see how to word this so I don't give too much away, just because it is absolutely just an amazing book and you really do want to go into it knowing nothing about it. It involves tapeworm, apocalyptic, scientific innovation. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to give you. Tapeworm, scientific innovation, and apocalyptic. It's really, really good. You guys need to read it. I will be rereading this book once I've finished like the second and third book, so read it. Anyway, guys, that was my February review. I'm really pleased with how many books I read this February, and I'm really happy that I had like no 1 stars and I only had like 1 2-star. So I've been making excellent choices in reading, and I hope to continue doing that. So please tell me how many books you guys read in February and which ones were your favorite, and give me some recommendations for my March or just in general TBR list. So leave those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!